The vast Kazakh Steppe is a place of haunting beauty, its endless horizons stretching into the unknown. I was drawn to it by a sense of adventure, a desire to experience the solitude and grandeur of one of the most remote places on Earth. Little did I know, this journey would turn into a nightmare that would forever change my life. I set out at dawn, my horse trotting steadily beneath me. The air was crisp, and the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. By midday, the sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows across the undulating grasslands. As the hours passed, an eerie stillness settled over the landscape. The steppe seemed to go on forever, a vast, empty expanse with no sign of human life. It was late afternoon when I first saw her, a figure in the distance, barely visible against the horizon. At first, I thought it was a mirage, a trick of the light. But as I rode closer, I could make out the form of a woman standing motionless. She wore a long, flowing dress that fluttered in the breeze, her hair cascading over her shoulders. "Hello," I called out, but she didn't respond. As I approached, a chill ran down my spine. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were dark voids. She stared at me, unblinking, and a sense of dread washed over me. "Are you all right?" I asked, my voice trembling. Still, she said nothing. Then she turned and began to walk away, her movements slow and deliberate. Compelled by a force I couldn't understand, I followed her. The sun dipped below the horizon, and darkness enveloped the steppe. The temperature plummeted, and an unnatural silence filled the air. The woman led me to an old, abandoned yurt, its fabric tattered and worn. She stopped at the entrance and turned to face me. "Who are you?" I whispered. Her lips parted, and in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, she said, "I am the Forgotten One." A cold wind swept through the yurt, and I shivered. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay. The woman stepped into the shadows, and I followed hesitantly. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw the remnants of a life long gone. Broken furniture, scattered belongings, and in the corner, a makeshift bed. The woman stood by the bed, her gaze fixed on a small, weathered journal. "This was my home," she said, her voice filled with sorrow. "And my prison." I picked up the journal and began to read. The entries were written in a delicate script, recounting the life of a young woman named Aisulu. She had lived here many years ago, betrothed to a man she did not love. Her true love, a young shepherd, had been forbidden by her family. Desperate, they planned to elope, but her family discovered their plans. One night, as they tried to escape, Aisulu's family caught them. In the struggle, her lover was killed, and she was dragged back to the yurt. Heartbroken and desolate, she took her own life that very night. Her spirit, filled with grief and anger, was bound to this place, wandering the steppe in eternal sorrow. Tears streamed down my face as I closed the journal. I looked up to see Aisulu standing before me, her expression one of profound sadness. "I am sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "Is there any way to help you?" Aisulu nodded slowly. "You must bury the journal with my lover's remains," she said. "Only then will I find peace." Determined to free her, I set out into the night, the journal clutched tightly in my hands. The steppe was a maze of shadows and whispers, the wind carrying voices of the past. After hours of searching, I found a small, unmarked grave beneath an old tree. With trembling hands, I dug into the cold earth and placed the journal inside. As I covered the grave, a sense of calm washed over me. The wind died down, and the air grew still. I looked up to see Aisulu standing nearby, her form shimmering in the moonlight. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a soft echo. "I am free." With that, she faded into the night, her spirit finally at rest. I stood there for a long time, staring at the grave, the weight of her tragedy heavy on my heart. When I returned to the yurt, the dawn was breaking. The steppe, once filled with dread, now seemed peaceful. I mounted my horse and rode away, the memory of Aisulu etched into my soul. The Kazakh Steppe is a place of haunting beauty, and now I knew it was also a place of haunting spirits. As I journeyed home, I couldn't help but wonder how many more stories like Aisulu's were waiting to be uncovered, hidden beneath the vast expanse of the steppe. But my journey was far from over. As night fell again, the landscape changed. Shadows grew longer and darker, and the air seemed to hum with a malevolent energy. My horse grew restless, its ears twitching at unseen threats. Then, I saw it. A figure, similar to Aisulu, but different. Malevolent. It hovered above the ground, its face twisted in a grotesque grin. I realized this was not Aisulu's spirit, but something far darker. A vengeful wraith, perhaps drawn by the disturbance of the cursed grave. Panic surged through me as the wraith advanced, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. My horse reared, nearly throwing me off. I urged it to run, and we sped across the steppe, the wraith in pursuit. Its chilling laughter echoed in my ears, and I felt an icy grip closing around my heart. We rode for what felt like hours, the wraith never tiring. I knew I couldn't escape it forever. Desperation took hold, and I remembered a tale I'd heard from an old Kazakh elder about spirits and how they could be appeased with offerings. With shaking hands, I dug into my pack and pulled out a piece of bread, a simple but sacred offering. I threw the bread to the ground and shouted a prayer, hoping against hope that it would work. To my astonishment, the wraith halted, its eyes narrowing. It hovered over the offering, then with a final screech, it disappeared into the night. Exhausted and terrified, I continued my journey, the memory of the wraith's malevolent presence etched into my mind. I knew that the steppe held many secrets, and that not all spirits could be appeased so easily. Some would continue to haunt, driven by a darkness that knew no end. When I finally reached civilization, I vowed never to return to the steppe. The haunting beauty of the landscape now held a sinister edge, a reminder of the spirits that roamed its vast expanse. I shared my story with others, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lay hidden in the heart of the Kazakh wilderness. And so, the legend of the Kazakh Steppe phantom grew, a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, their secrets buried beneath the endless horizon.